Hi, everyone. Bill Renchler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone's having a nice Monday. It is Monday. That means we're hanging out with Josh Planos from the Better Business Bureau. Josh, hard to believe we're just 16 days away now from the Christmas holiday.
It's like as soon as we hit November, there's some sort of accelerator that we're all on. I have no idea how the weeks are going as fast as they are, but yes, rapidly moving toward the holiday season.
It's like we're listening to the podcast on times 2 speed. And that's just
That
how...
is a great way to put it. Great way to put it.
And so we're hanging out, we're talking today because a lot of folks this time of year, obviously looking for gifts for, kids, for spouses, for family. And sometimes that gift could be a four-legged friend, which I will always encourage as a person who has 3 dogs at home. I think they're great and they can add a ton to the family. But sometimes there's, I don't want to necessarily say a wrong way to go about it, but there are pitfalls that one can encounter when trying to bring home a four-legged friend, especially around the holidays. And this is something that we've seen locally here over the past couple weeks.
It is. We recently had, within the last 2 weeks, had somebody report out of Lincoln or Omaha that they reached out to someone, and they were in the market for a golden doodle puppy, and they saw a legitimate-looking website. They saw an amount of $750 that included shipping. Bill, the going rate for a golden doodle, I believe, is between $2,000 and $5,000. So that's a huge discount, right? If it is real, which in this case it was not. And this person sadly paid for this, the prospect of a pet using Cash App. And after they were given a transfer of ownership contract that they read through and signed, they were told the animal would be delivered, and it was never delivered. And then suddenly the charges began to compound. Red flags were immediately noticeable, and then the person vanished. Right? They stopped communicating with the victim entirely, and that is where this person is left. Right? Just trying to get a puppy over the holiday season, and this is not an uncommon experience. Which is to say, there are a lot of opportunities out there that sound fantastic in theory, and then ultimately are proven to be hollow, or they just outright don't exist, right? And luckily, there are some best practices to avoid this experience, which we would recommend not just during the holiday season, but anytime you are looking to add a four-legged friend to the mix.
Yeah, really, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it's all not great. It's people trying to take advantage of other people. But, especially when, a family is maybe looking forward to adding a pet to the mix, whether it's a cat or whether it's a dog or whatever, it feels like it just stings that much more for a lot of these folks.
It's devastating, right? I mean, this is truly just an attempt to bring, something special home that does lighten up the holiday season, that lightens up, a household, lightens up a family. But it's really important, particularly with, high amounts of money, right? Where the transaction is particularly sensitive, to be doing your research, to be working through companies you can trust, by remaining true to those foundational best practices that have proven time and time again to be able to bypass the vast majority of what is ultimately reported to us, and ultimately what you and I talk a great deal about, on Mondays, Bill.
And so, I mean, you mentioned it, but, best practices, because it can be kind of tough, because a lot of times it might be a private seller, hey, had a litter of puppies, accidentally or on purpose, or however the puppies came to be, and, selling the puppies. So it's not necessarily, hey, like, I'm going to go down to Target, to get this thing and surefire thing. But some tips and best practices, Josh, I know you probably have a bunch, but I would imagine right on the top of the list is to probably go see that pet in person to know that it actually, is there.
Yeah, without a doubt, right? I mean, it's one thing to know definitively that the product, the good, the service, the pet in this case exists. It's another thing, right, to think, well, I saw a photo of it and that seems good enough for me. It really is challenging to ever know. You just won't ever know, right? For sure, if that pet exists, if you don't force that person to have a FaceTime or to host you or to log into Zoom or Skype or whatever teleconferencing app they have to show you that the pet does exist. A photo does not suffice, right? This is something where you really do need to see, you need to see that pet move, right? And you need to have an actual interaction with this person because it's a lot of money to spend otherwise. And you are always going to be, kind of walking that fine line between the sounds great in theory, but is it actual? Does it actually exist in practice? Unless you actually see it. I know it's a lot easier to work through an animal shelter because you typically need to go to the shelter to see the pet, or at least that site is verified and to exist. But with breeders, there are some best practices you can rely on to make that experience as smooth as possible, right? But one of those things is to actually request to see the pet and to interact with the pet before you either get in your car and drive to get the pet or agree to terms and conditions on the pet being delivered to your front door. That is not going to be an atypical request for a breeder to experience, and you're well within your right to ask questions before, and it's a lot easier to ask before versus after.
And so, Josh, because a lot, you can go to the shelter, which is obviously a great choice and a choice, we would encourage. But there's obviously the breeders and folks who have whether it's puppies or kitties privately. And a lot of times you might be paying with a Cash App, a Venmo, or whatever it might be. Would it be better in your mind? Is that maybe something you should just go to the bank and get the cash, or would it be better to use a payment app like a Venmo? What would be the best practice there?
Tell me if you've heard this before, Bill. But a secure, traceable transaction would be preferable. This is the time for plastic. This is the time for just the most amount of security you can package into a transaction. Very difficult to get that money back when you use peer-to-peer payment methods. If you cut a check, that's one thing, right? At bare minimum, once you get to the point where you're willing to pay for the pet, you want to make sure you're using the transaction method that has the most security. And in this case, that is a credit card. And all reputable breeders will allow for credit card payment. If it's someone you know personally, that is a case where, of course, you can lighten the restrictions a bit, right? You can bring cash. You can use peer-to-peer payment methods if you have an actual relationship with this person. Many more people do not have a relationship with this person, right? They're starting from square one. And in all of those circumstances, it is best to use the most secure method possible, which in this case is a credit card.
And so, Josh, this is something that, as I think we both mentioned, that we have seen locally here over the past several weeks. But would you say this is something that's most prevalent around the holidays? Something that we likely see throughout the year, but most prevalent during this time of year?
I would say that animal adoption scams are at their most prevalent right there in the months of November and December because of the holiday element. Just like online dating apps are probably most prevalent in January, February, March, right? Those are the months that there is a seasonality, I would say, that lends itself to this particular type of scam, just like many others. But the important thing, right, is even if you're under enormous time constraints, even like, for instance, if you're trying to secure a pet today, right, December 9th, you need that pet delivered within a certain number of days to hit your preferred holiday. It's really important to remember those foundational best practices because it does you no good to pay an enormous sum of money for something that doesn't exist. Right, it's not going to expedite that process. It's not going to make the transaction any more legitimate. You want to make sure that you are working through a company that you can trust, a person that you can trust. And there are a lot of reputable dealers, I would say, on bbb.org. Right, we've got a lot of business profiles for those breeders. And at bare minimum, I would think you would want to know what kind of complaints, what kind of reviews that breeder has experienced in the past before you agree to be their next client.
100% there, Josh. And, it's obviously something I think we talk about most every time we talk, but I wanted to ask sort of one question more in this. And that is, again, report it if it does happen to you, because there are only a handful of people who do, and that usually means there's even more people that it's happened to that haven't said anything. But that when it's reported to the BBB, you guys also send this information to law enforcement agencies and things like that as well. It doesn't just stop with you guys. If the law enforcement can kind of shut this thing down, they'll try and do that.
One thing I don't think we do a good enough job of communicating this, but with the BBB is a member of what's called the Consumer Sentinel Network. So this is a network put together by the FTC that impacts and shares resources specific to scam prevention with any national agency you can possibly think of, right? The FBI, U.S. Customs, the CIA, all of these organizations are pooling resources together in the fight against scam prevention. So it sometimes can feel like you don't know where to report your experience, because are you not reporting to this, that, and the other? Are you only reporting to one area? This information is also shared with local law enforcement agencies. So when we receive a report through Scam Tracker, if it involves a Nebraska victim, that is communicated to the law enforcement agency in question that could actively police it. Here's why it's important to report through Scam Tracker, though. There is a public backlink that is a part of that reporting process. So if you were to file a police report that was physical, right? You handed in a physical document, and that information is not used potentially for an investigation, no one is protected by that reported experience, right? There's no public profile. There's no public information about that report. At least with Scam Tracker, say you were communicated with about a golden doodle puppy, right? And you were communicated with by goldendoodle at gmail.com. If you were to search for that email address, you would see that scam report pop up. And that might seem like a really small thing, right? But for a lot of folks, that cursory research is all that stands between them and pulling the credit card out of the wallet. That's all that stands between them and going through the process of transacting with that scammer. That information is really valuable, and having at bare minimum that pause right before the point of sale is incredibly useful and can protect a lot of people, right? Even if nothing else was done with it, which things are, right? But that information is really important to report. And the only way we're protecting one another is by reporting those types of experiences.
Yeah, and again, like I said, with a pet, it just feels like it could sting a little bit more, and you definitely want something done on the back end of that. So again, reporting it to the BBB, you're also again reporting it then to law enforcement as well to hopefully shut things like that down. I feel like also important, just as a reminder for folks who do maybe want to bring home that four-legged friend for the holidays. It really would probably be, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with scams or anything like that, but to meet that pet first, because we see so many pets returned after the holidays, and that's obviously something we don't like to see, and the shelters do get pretty full in January.
Without a doubt. I have a cat myself. We are in the market for a dog. I can tell you, before we secure a dog, we are bringing the cat to meet that dog. It is really important that you do a little bit of due diligence, right, to ensure that home setting is ready to bring in a furry friend, is ready to bring in another member, right, to your home. It's really important to do that, because I could tell you a lot of local animal shelters are really, really stressed out after the holiday season when things don't go according to plan, which is to be expected, right? But at bare minimum, control what you can control, which is to do research, right, on the market rate of that pet, and do a little bit of research internally, right, on what your home needs to accommodate that pet. That pet wants to be part of a family. That pet wants to be part of a home. So there is some work that needs to be done in every home, every apartment, to ensure that pet gets a good experience as well.
Well said, Josh. Well said. Anything else, but whether it's tips, best practices, or otherwise, regarding these, pet adoption scams that you want to make sure we get mentioned?
Yeah, just lastly, we've talked in the past, Bill, about conducting reverse image searches. If you were to just do a cursory search, reverse image search, there are tens of options out there, all of which are free, where you can upload the URL of a picture of a pet. Here's why that's important. A lot of folks fall for the glossy image of the golden doodle or of the golden retriever, or the German shepherd that looks like it's shimmering in the sun. Maybe that photo is real, but also maybe that photo has been taken elsewhere. And the reason why scammers would use those photos because they're really enticing, right? You want to be around a pet that photographs that well. You want to have that experience with that pet. You want to also make sure that photo is real before that is, the vast majority of your rationale for paying for that pet, right? And so at bare minimum, these reverse image searches will tell you exactly where this image has appeared online. And it's really useful to know if that image has appeared in 10 other sites, on 10 other corners of the internet before it ultimately made its way to this landing page in front of you, right? You would just think differently about that transaction if you knew that image was potentially not real, right? And in the age of AI, in the age of texting out a string of text and voila, a photo appears, it's really important to do some additional research, which maybe we didn't previously need to 5-10 years ago.
And this is maybe veering a little bit off topic, into the weeds a little bit. And I'm asking because I'm not 100% sure. Do you know, is there a good place, if it's an AI generated image, you think you would probably be able to tell, but again, some of them are so good that you're not 100% sure. Would like a reverse image search platform be able to tell if it's an AI generated image, or would there be a better place to go to try and decipher that?
There may be a site more specific to AI related photos. To your point, Bill, there are AI photos that look like superheroes, right? That are very easy to say, I know that is not a real photo. That looks like something that would appear on a poster. Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, though, these AI generators are creating photos to then place onto other landing pages, right? So at bare minimum, if that photo looks real, it is AI based, and it appeared on 3 other websites, chances are that's likely a fraud, right? But I don't necessarily know if there is a specific tool that I have seen that would suss out AI versus non-AI. And even then, we're kind of nitpicking at this point, but now you can clean up photos with the use of artificial intelligence, right? So drawing the line between what is a real photo and what isn't sounds a lot easier than rapidly it is becoming.
That's a pretty big can of worms, probably, and a whole topic of conversation for a whole nother day. So, Josh, appreciate your time as always. I think we're going to be able. I think we'll talk next week. I didn't know if this was going to be last time we talked before Christmas, but I think we're talking next week, right?
I'll be here if you'll be here.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about AI generated images and how to decipher and sift through the madness that is artificial intelligence now.
Sounds good. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Appreciate you, Josh. Again, appreciate having Josh on, as always. Try and talk to him every Monday. Again, just good reminders. Again, if you're looking to bring home a new family pet or just a pet for yourself during the holidays, again, just do a little bit of research, take a little bit of time. Again, as a pet owner myself, I feel like these are types of scams that sting just a little bit more. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching, as always. Again, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of the latest. Until next time, hope everyone has a nice Monday.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.